Hello and welcome to Female Voices Life and Loss, the space where we hold honest conversations about grief, healing, and what it means to keep living when life has changed everything. Today's conversation is one of profound loss and profound creativity. My guest is a widow, mother, an author, a poet, a curator of healing spaces. She is someone who didn't just survive unimaginable loss. She listened to what her grief was asking for and responded with intention, community, and creativity. Within a single year, she lost her mother, her husband, and 5 other family members. My heart. In the darkness that followed, she discovered something powerful, that self-care isn't meant to be a one-time rescue. It's meant to be a network that holds us consistently. Through poetry, shared spaces, open mics, and even moments itself, she now creates experiences that allow others to pause, reflect, and heal together. So today we're going to talk about grief, creativity, community, and what it truly means to build a sustainable self-care network. I am so honored to welcome her to the show. So welcome
Thank
to
you.
Female Voices. I'm so glad that you're able to join us, and we're going to dive into. I'm just like my heart with all those losses. So share with us.
It was unimaginable. I started in May of 2023. My husband passed away a little after midnight, and unbeknownst to me, my aunt had passed at 8 o'clock that same night.
Oh my goodness.
And so we had 2 funerals to coordinate for the month of June. And in July, I lost an aunt. I don't even remember all the months. Then there was an uncle and another uncle, and it didn't stop until around Thanksgiving. And it was just, after a while, you become numb to it. But
Wow.
I got to the point where I didn't want to answer the phone. It's like every time the phone rang, it was news of someone else and another one and another
Wow.
one. And I thought, is this a joke? Like, am I being punked here? Like, why so many in such a short amount of time? So it created a really weird dynamic, a very hard dynamic. And that is, who do you grieve for first? Like, you can't separate it. It's compounded grief cycles running concurrently at the same time. Sometimes it would compound itself or feed one right into the other. And it was a lot. The biggest part for me, I'm as analytical as I am creative. So I was trying to figure out how to resolve the grief or how to solve for X. Like, this is painful. I don't want to be in this space. So how do I navigate out of it?
Yeah.
Is kind of what I wanted to do. So there are all these steps to grief. There's the denial, the bargaining, the anger, the acceptance, all of those. So I looked that up and I thought, oh, okay, I've gone through this one, and this one. Okay, so I should be done. And my therapist is like, that's really not how that works. It's like the one profound thing he said to me was that grief does not play by the rules, but it doesn't have to win the game. The biggest and most difficult thing for me to do was just to let it as it shows up, to feel it and not try to do anything with it other than to observe it. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to pause, pause. Control was the hardest part for me because I use my mind to think at work. And suddenly short-term memory was elusive. And it's like, "Oh, what's wrong with me? Why can't I think?" Or, "What's wrong with me? Why can't I do this?" I remember I was putting away groceries, got distracted, forgot and left the refrigerator door wide open. The weirdest things like that. My counselor said to me, said, "It's not what's wrong with you. It's you've had a lot happen to you. And let's reframe that." Because I kept trying to fix it rather than just sit and grow. It's an uncomfortable place to be, but yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it sounds like you had some wise counsel for you, which is wonderful. And I would agree with, I think you made the comment that that was weird that you left the refrigerator open. And I would just say very normal, not necessarily weird at all, just very
Well, it wasn't
normal
normal
with
for
the,
me.
yeah. Well, but the grief makes it, which you were experiencing, makes it very normal.
I
But
think
if you don't know that, you don't know that.
I
That
think
there's this brain fog.
for high functioning women, I've heard
Mhm.
other widows say this too.
Mhm.
We tend to think that our skill set will trump our
Oh.
grief.
Yeah.
It's like I
Yeah.
perform in all these other spaces when things go wrong. I'm a problem solver. I create avenues
And
and lanes and instruction for other people. Why isn't it working here?
yeah.
And it's like it's never going to work here because it's not how grief works. And coming to terms with that was really difficult for me. Like I
Mm.
heard it, I could intellectualize it. Like I understood what it meant, but I didn't realize that I was quietly making myself the exception to the rule. So even with the grief, I went back to work 10 days after
Mm.
my husband and my aunt passed away because I thought
Wow.
it's separate, but it's not separate. It
Mhm.
integrates itself in your life. And I knew I was in trouble when I was on a call. My job is highly analytical, and sometimes I talk to subject matter experts to explain to me a particular process so that I can figure out how to fix what went wrong. It
Mm.
wasn't until the person said, "Do you have any other questions?" did I realize I wasn't listening to her at all. I had no idea what this woman said on the call.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
thought, "Oh my God, I can't ask her to repeat it." And it's just me. Like no one else is doing what I do. So it's at
Mhm.
that moment I'm like, I have to step back and work on me and allow myself to heal. Because I
Yeah.
thought, "Oh well, I understand that someone has passed, my spouse and my aunt and my mom and all
Mhm.
that, but life goes on and I still have to work, right?" So I
Mhm.
thought, I can deal with that after work. The thing is, you can't compartmentalize grief. I mean, you can, but understand that
Try.
that's only temporary. It's like that old game Whack-A-Mole. Like if you suppress it in this area, you whack it there, it's gonna come out somewhere else. It's gonna
Mhm.
show up somewhere else in your life if you don't let it just let it happen and unfold as naturally as it's going to happen. And then
Yeah.
everybody's different. Nobody grieves the same way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's a huge awareness for people that are going through grief. So I'll just reiterate that we all grieve differently. There is no doubt about that. Yeah, very unique in our grief. And we always want to compare ourselves to other people in all
Mhm.
things, including grief. And you just cannot do that. It doesn't serve you well to do that, that your
No.
grief is very individual. So you had indicated, and I mentioned in kind of the intro, that you're a curator of healing spaces. What does
Mhm.
that mean? Explain that to me. What does that mean?
Sure. I'll give you a little bit of context first about where it came from. I'm a writer of all things, poet, author.
Oh,
I've done
yeah.
screenplays, the whole nine. And so writing for me can also be a form of therapy to get it all out. I journal.
Mm,
But this
nice.
time it wasn't really working for me. And for the
Mm,
first time in my life, I didn't want to write. That
mm,
was scary because if you're a writer who doesn't want to write, are you still a writer? Like what's happening to me at
mm,
my core? And my therapist said, "Well, you're trying to use writing as a panacea and it doesn't work that way."
mm,
And I'm like, "Well, what does that mean?" And he's like, "Well, let me ask you this first. If you wanted to become stronger, what would you do?" And I'm like, "I don't know, I guess I have a weight program." He goes, "Right. So does that mean you would go to the gym and pick up the heaviest weight and go home and you're done?" I'm like, "No, like you lift like every other day and you continue." He goes,
mhm,
"Exactly." He asked me prior to that, he said, "Do you practice self-care?" And I'm like, "Of course. When I feel stressed, when I feel this, I hang out, I go for a walk or I may work out or talk to my friends." And he said, "And that's why it's not working." And I thought, "What?" He said, "You can't be reactive with your self-care. You do things when
mm,
you feel a certain way. You do things when you're overwhelmed or if you're reacting to it instead of preparing for it." And I was like,
mm.
"Oh, that was
I
new."
like that. Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
said, "And it has to occur often and over time, just like a weight program. But then you also have to prepare for it in various different areas, not just intellectually with your writing. You have to practice self care financially, you have to practice self care socially. And there are all these different areas. There are 8 self care pillars. You have to practice self care in all of these areas on a regular basis. It
Mm,
doesn't prevent the grief from coming, it's still going to come. But the difference is you're prepared and it doesn't take you under as if somebody's not prepared. And he said, think of a
Mm,
boxer that trains for the fight. He knows he's going to get hit, but he prepares to take the hit. And he also knows how to offensively protect himself. That's what the self care network does for you.
mm,
And it was such a eureka moment for me. I thought,
mm,
"Oh my gosh, I'm unprotected in all these different areas." And I have been largely reactive to the grief instead of, "You know what? Take care of yourself all the time." Like brushing your teeth. You don't wait until you well, you
right.
shouldn't. Wait until you get a cavity or need a root canal before you start brushing and flossing. It's a regular thing to maintain the health of your teeth,
Mhm,
and that self-care network is a regular thing to maintain that emotional and mental health of yourself. But when
mhm.
crises and devastating things happen, it's like the body on a cellular level is like, "Oh, this is happening. I remember what to do here," versus it being the
Mm,
very first time or the first time in a very long time. And
mhm.
you know what I found? It helped so much so that I thought, I gotta share this with people because I don't think people know that. I didn't know this. Did you know this? So I
Yeah.
started creating spaces. We were doing self-care brunches where we would gather and we'd have an activity that supported one of those self-care pillars. And we talk about it and kind of workshop, kind of not. I didn't want to make it too heavy, but when you involve food, people come.
Yes, they
They
do.
come, and you build community, and the most amazing thing happens is that people discover they're not alone in how they felt or how they
Mm,
wanted to share. You weren't required to share, but and that just morphed into other things, and I would braid creativity within it, such as with the open mics. My open mic is a little bit different in that every now and then, about 4 times throughout the night, I will perform my own piece, and then I'll provide a reflection question to the audience, not for me, but for them. And it
mm.
provides either an awakening or the beginning of some type of transformation when you leave. And we've gotten nothing but great feedback from having it structured that way.
Sounds super amazing. And I just want to make sure for the listeners that you're in the St. Louis area, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so you do these healing spaces, the open mic. How often do you do those and where do you do those in the St. Louis area if someone's listening from St. Louis that would
Sure.
like to
So
attend?
there's a wonderful cafe and bakery called Sweet Art Café, and
Mm,
it's near SLU's campus, St. Louis University, on
okay.
Lindell, 3701 Lindell. I think the cross street is Sarah, and it's a beautiful cafe, and they host not only the open mic for me, but any of the other self-care activities. They pretty much are my home base there. I am the resident poet at that location.
Okay.
So the owner is amazing, Rain Crease. She supports pretty much all of the ideas that I have involving creativity and self-care because they align with the vision of her restaurant. So
That's
that's the
awesome.
location. It's Sweet Art Restaurant in St. Louis in Midtown.
That's awesome. And so when you say open mic, explain that to me because at first I thought you were singing,
Oh
but are
gosh, no.
you you're reading poetry? That's where I was like, wait, when you first said open mic, I'm like, oh, she's singing. That's beautiful. And then you talked about
No.
poetry. And I'm like, wait, I'm confused. So I want to make that clear. Make
Sure.
sure you
So let me clarify.
both of those are beautiful. I'll just
So
say
the
so.
open mic started as a form of performative poetry called spoken word.
Okay.
But then we opened up the mic further, to your point, to include if someone wanted to sing or they had a comedic act that they wanted to perform, we
Okay.
allow that too. And we're
Okay.
especially graceful for brand new people to come and grace the mic because I know public speaking is number 2 to death as far as what people fear.
Yeah.
I wanted to be welcoming to people to use that as an outlet for creative expression and also as a catharsis. I found that that's been very helpful to me. So the open mic is mainly for poetry, but we also
Okay.
allow people to sing or perform on the mic as well. The
Mhm.
difference here is that the communication for this open mic isn't just one way. It's interactive. I am very interactive with the audience. I'm not
Okay.
just giving you information or providing you entertainment. I'm giving you food for thought and then allowing you space to process that in
Mm,
whatever way you see fit, but I give you time to reflect on it. And that's a little bit different. I've never attended an open mic like that, but I wanted to infuse that little bit of self care in with the fun. And
Mm.
so far, so good. We're still, it's pretty much brand new. We started in September with my book signing. And after that, we've had it every single month.
I love that concept. I might steal it for the Illinois side of the river.
Go
Because I'm in
ahead.
Illinois. I love that. I love that a lot. So these are all based around healing of grief of the loss of a loved one, or does it expand more than that? Because we do know we can experience grief with all losses, like
Correct.
loss
So
of
it's
a marriage, a house, a job. There's all
correct.
sorts of grief that we experience. So I want to just see, have you explain, is it just the loss of a
It
person, a
started
mom, a dad? Oh,
it started from my own personal grief. And then I recognize, to your point, there's an abundance of different types of grief.
yes,
Sometimes you can grieve situations of people who are still living. You can
yes.
grieve the loss of a job or the
Hmm.
change or transformation of a friendship. But the
Hmm.
point is to provide the healing for sure, whether it's grief or some other type of healing can be
Hmm.
done when you, first of all, acknowledge it and express it. But then
Hmm.
when you share it in community and someone gives you a nod, it's like, okay, it's validating in a sense, and
Yes,
it's like it gives you permission that you didn't know you needed to be able to feel exactly what it is that you feel at the time that
yes.
you're feeling it and not feel ashamed or that you shouldn't feel that way. So
Mm,
that was the open mic is definitely for creativity, but I wanted to take it and layer it with I don't want you to leave here unchanged. At very least, I want you to leave here with a different point of view, perhaps an awakening, even better, a whole
mm,
transformation, but certainly with more information and different than when you walk through the door the first time. So that's the
mm.
whole point of that.
Okay. So you talked about just even like creativity and those kinds of things. So is that mainly the one thing that you do? Is this open mic? Are there other things? Let's talk about all of the things because
You
I
know,
have a sneaky suspicion that there's more than just that.
oh my gosh, there's so much more. My niece makes fun of me. She says, "If I don't talk to you in 3 or 4 days, I feel like I've missed a whole lifetime of
Yeah,
feedback."
when you talked about the restaurant owner and you said she is up for all of my creative things, I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
there must be a lot more to this that she's not sharing yet. So let's share that. What else?
So, there are also these Serenity Suppers
Mm,
that is infused with creativity as well as community building. So we come together to have dinner there at Sweet Art, but there is one shared conversation around a particular topic. It could be boundaries, it could be identity. And what happens there is an entire bowl full of different questions on index cards. So we open and I open with a poem that's related to whatever theme that we're talking about. We break bread and then we start by drawing a question from the bowl and we just examine that question collectively, like something as simple as who are you? And people will go around and they'll say, "Oh,
mm,
I'm a mom of three and I'm married and I work here or there." And it's like, great. Those are all roles and things that you do.
oh,
So if those things are missing, does it mean that you're missing? Like if you strip away all of your roles, any position that you have because of someone else, meaning I'm a wife because there is a husband, or I'm a mother because there is a child, or I am a worker because there is a job. If you take all of that away, what's left? And people
mm,
are stunned because we're so used to relating to each other through our utility instead
mhm,
of asking, like, gosh, who am I? Who am I really? And
mhm,
it's food for thought. And that conversation went for about 45 minutes. For as many questions as I had, we went through that layer by layer and peeled it back to who are you? Great. Now that we've discovered who you are, how do you relate to the rest of the world? Like how do you feel about that? And in what areas and ways does it help you to feel strong? In what areas and ways do you feel like maybe insufficient or that there is a hollowness there? So we examine all of that community style. And it's just amazing. Each and every time after we're done, like people don't want to leave. So I have to gently say the cafe is actually closed.
you gotta go. You can't
So
stay
we'll
here.
keep the community and continue building. We'll just have to exit this space. But it's
Yeah.
been largely successful so far. And we'll just keep going until maybe it branches off into something else.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So dinner, open mic.
The third thing is the moving page.
Mm,
So, as a writer, I always love to write, but sometimes you get distracted. Well, there's laundry, or somebody called, or a package
mhm.
came, or there's always something that can take you away and out of the process. So, I developed the moving page, which takes a group of writers on an Amtrak train. So, where we're encapsulated in a single car for 4 hours. So, you're distracted by nothing and you have moving scenery to inspire you to just write, rewrite. I provide prompts on it too, but it's really self-guided for you to get it out, for you to tell your story
Hmm.
in a way that you're usually not allowed on your own, or may not have the discipline of it on your own. But where are you going to go? It's a moving train. You got nowhere to go, nothing else to do. It kind of
Ooh.
forces the process. It forces you to kind of granulate into that process and really own it and start to let it flow.
Hmm.
So that will
So
do that.
this is okay. This is not a visual being on a train. This is a
No,
physical, actually being
a
on a
physical
train.
train.
Okay. I'm like, wow.
Yes.
Wow. I'm like, that's
So we go
cool.
from St. Louis to Kansas City. It's a morning route. We get there in the afternoon. We have lunch. We discuss what we wrote. Then you're free to roam the city on your own. The very next morning, we return. Same thing, a brand new prompt, or you can write whatever you want. And then when we return to St. Louis, there is an open mic at Sweet Art. If you want to express what you've created, or if you just want to sit and experience what others created, the atmosphere is there for you to do that. So that's what I mean when I say a curator of healing spaces for people. Because I
Wow.
didn't necessarily, one, I didn't have it. And two, I didn't know I needed it. But when I
Hmm.
figured it out, it's like, oh my God, I can't be the only one.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
And you're not, obviously. You're definitely not. And I love that you're creating these spaces for others, for yourself too. When we there definitely is a time when someone is grieving that they feel the urge to now support and help other people that are grieving. And it's all at a different time for different people.
Sure.
But it always, I feel like almost always comes somewhere in the grieving process to support and help someone else that is grieving. So
Yeah.
I love that you're really doing those things because sometimes people just think about them. I should have,
Mhm.
or maybe I'll do this, or I don't know, I'm not good enough, or I can't do that. I'm so glad that you have taken that initiative. The thoughts were there, given to you,
Mhm.
put on your heart, and you're acting on them, which is beautiful. So
Well, it's
beautiful.
not to say that I don't have the negative thoughts. I certainly do. They
Yeah,
certainly
yeah,
arise. But
yeah.
ironically, it's the experience of all those deaths that put fire up under me that
Mhm,
says, it doesn't matter if you're successful or not, at least you tried it because
mhm,
you understand more than most how fragile life is. Here today, gone tomorrow. You've actually
mhm.
lived that out.
Yeah,
So, worst case scenario, I tried it and it didn't work. That sits better on my palate than I had an idea and I never tried to execute it. I've had plenty of things to flop, but I've also had a lot of things that go successfully.
yeah.
So, I don't internalize the failure. I
Mhm.
don't say that I'm a failure. I say that didn't work or that failed. And for me, failure is nothing but feedback. It's like,
Exactly.
this way didn't work. Those Serenity Suppers that I referred to, they were self-care brunches at one point, and the business structure didn't work. But it's like I just have to figure out how else to do it. I was bringing in
Yeah.
caterers, I was renting out locations. Now it's housed at a particular restaurant, so I don't have to bring in a caterer, and I'm doing things differently, and it's more cost effective. So now the business model works. But I could have stopped there and go, this isn't working. I'm paying to do it. Although it's nice, I don't want to have to pay to do it. And now I
Mhm,
don't. But I
mhm,
enjoy doing it because to see the aha moment in somebody else's eyes is such a liberating experience. It's
mhm.
like, okay, all those nights in the dark and not understanding how to even function or how to make it through the next breath, you've helped somebody else do that. And that's why I do it.
Yeah, I love that. I totally felt that for sure as I work with clients, as I even have the podcast and people get
Hmm.
those aha moments and you see the healing and the processing happen and the release from things that they've been holding just warms my heart so much. So I totally get that from what you just said.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's nothing better. It makes everything that I do so worth it to just experience that with someone else, to be a part of their healing. It's
Yeah. The other thing
amazing.
is, I think that's important for people that are grieving is this. Don't let someone tell you how you're supposed to grieve. Just because something worked for them doesn't mean that
Yeah.
it's for you. Like, oh, no, snap out of it. Like, there's no, I can't snap out of this. I didn't want in it to begin with, but I
Mhm.
can't snap out of it. The best thing you can do really is to allow yourself to feel, to
Yeah.
allow the tears to fall, and to go to bed with a reason to wake up the next day. It's
Yeah.
every people work through things differently. Myself and my son lost the same person. I lost a husband, he lost a father. We did not grieve the same.
Oh, no.
And I had to often take my own advice because I felt like I didn't see him cry. He seems to be functioning normally. Is he grieving? Does he grieve? And I became really intrusive because I wanted to make sure he was okay. And he
Sure.
had to tell me, I don't grieve like you. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I'm saying this, but then I'm doing something different because that's my baby. So I was
Yeah. Mother
tending to
instinct.
be, yeah, I was over mothering and but he stopped me. And I was so proud of that because I advocate for people having boundaries and enforcing them, but it's different when your kid turns around and does it to you. It's like,
Mhm.
it's eye-opening. It's like, "Okay, I get
Yeah.
it. I'll step back because that's what you need now from me is space, and I'll let you
Yeah.
handle this the way you need to handle it."
Well, and I think most importantly is you just need to know that he was grieving,
Mhm.
because it's obvious that you knew how important that was, that he wasn't stuffing that all down, that he was grieving, even though it was different and you didn't see it maybe as grieving, but that was happening. And I think that is key for people to understand, is just because people aren't grieving like you think they should be, or saying
Right.
the words that you believe need to be heard from you, that doesn't mean that they're not grieving. Have probably 50 different stories, especially of men grieving and wives, because I work a lot with those that have lost children,
Mhm.
and the wife saying he's not grieving, and to know after maybe talking to him, um, sharing how he is grieving, and it's a huge eye opening for them to be like, oh gosh, I didn't even see that or think of that. Of course, he's going to hide that, of course, because he doesn't want to put that on her.
And the gender lines are different. Men express their emotions differently than women do.
Absolutely.
They tend not to process out loud or communally, whereas women will go to brunch. We'll let it all
Hmm.
out. Men
Hmm.
don't do that. I often wonder, do they have a safe space to do that? But
Hmm.
to your point, it is different. And
Yeah.
we often have to back up and give them the space to do that. Sometimes they
Yeah.
don't have the words, but me being the helicopter mom in that moment was born out of overhearing another relative say to him, "Well, you gotta suck it up now. You're the man of the house, and you
Oh
gotta be the
gosh.
brother-in-law." And I'm
Mm,
like, "Let's dial that back and undo it. You are not responsible for my emotions. You absolutely do not have to suck it up. In fact, I wanna make sure you get that out.
yeah.
Don't hold it in because it's gonna come out either voluntarily or through some other means. And I
Yeah.
don't want you growing up feeling like your manhood is tied to how stoic you can be because it's
Yeah.
quite the opposite. It takes a very strong person to
Mm,
allow their weaknesses to be able to express all that's in there instead of bottling it up. So we don't
yeah.
want you to become a pressure cooker. I want to
Yeah.
make sure that you're letting all of it out and letting it go as much
Hmm.
as you can. And he assured me that he was. And I provided him with resources that he could use without having to go through me if he felt so that he needed to.
And you exactly right that men do grieve differently, and a lot of times they will bottle it up, and it's coming out. Like you said, it's coming out somewhere,
Somewhere.
and we want to really help support them so it doesn't come out in the worst, most negative way, because it can. An explosion at work or at a spouse or at a friend or whatever, it's coming
Mhm.
out, and it's best to not allow that and to be able to process that differently if we can. So I have another question for you before we conclude. You talked about 8 pillars of self-care
Yes.
network. Speak to that. What are these 8 pillars, or explain what that means to you?
So let me pull that up because I always forget one or two of them. So there are 8 areas of self care, is what it is,
Okay.
and they're crucial for holistic wellness, and that is the physical self care, and that's
Mhm.
just taking care of yourself. You don't necessarily have to have a full blown high intensity workout, but just walking or taking your medicine on time or making sure that you're getting enough quality sleep or that you're eating well. That's your physical. Your emotional self-care, your intellectual, psychological, social, spiritual, environmental, professional, and financial. So the ways that you take care of yourself in all of those ways. And here's the thing, self-care is messy.
Mm,
It's messy. It's not, the manicure pedicure thing that can be a part of it, but it's not the end all to be all. Sometimes
right.
self-care means I have boundaries and I enforce those, which
Mhm.
means I'm going to upset some people in order to protect myself emotionally and mentally. It
Mhm.
means scheduling appointments with your care providers, whether that's your physical health or whether that's mental health. It means taking time for yourself and resting. So, this was a big one for me recently. I didn't realize that there were multiple different types of rest. Like, I would go to bed, get my 8 hours, but still wake up tired. And it's
Mhm.
because I was emotionally tired, not physically tired. Or maybe I'm mentally tired. And it's important to step back and do that reset because resting is doing something. It's not doing nothing because
Mhm.
rest is something. And for
Mhm.
a lot of us, and by a lot of us, I mean me, for a lot of us, it's difficult to not be productive all the time. But it's important that we interrupt that cycle of doing just to reset so that we can
Yeah.
continue in the way that we need to.
Yeah, absolutely. We all really need a reset quite
Mhm.
frequently.
Yes.
We hear that we're supposed to keep holy the Sabbath, like a day of rest, which would be wonderful if we did that, and we don't. But the other thing is, I do a lot of, and I think it's that what kind of you're speaking to as well is just sitting and resting and taking some deep breaths to reset your whole system is super important throughout the day. And when I talk with clients and when I do talks and speak at libraries and things like that, I think
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I feel is I hear all the time how eye opening is for them when I always do some sort of a little breath work with them before we even
Mhm.
start for a reset for them just from the day that they've had.
Yeah.
And it's just so beneficial. And I tie that right into rest and reset for sure. I love the whole holistic piece of that. It's very important
And it
because
works.
yeah, we as a society, when we think about self care, we only think about a couple things. And you're right, either getting our hair done or going get a massage or patty mani, whatever. That's what we think a lot of times. But self care is much should be that, yes, and many other things, like you had indicated.
And it needs to be
8 different
first.
things. Yeah.
It for me, it had to be the top of the hour. It can't be something that I do after work
I
because
love that.
the first thing in the morning, I drink a liter of water before I do
Yeah.
anything else, before I speak to anybody else. And then if I can't get to the gym, I stretch because that prepares me for whatever's coming after that.
Hmm.
So I had to learn to do that. Everything else waits because if I don't
Hmm.
recharge me, nothing else is going to matter. That was the
Right.
biggest takeaway.
Well, and you're not gonna be your best self if you don't take care of you. That's for
Sure.
sure. So, for our listeners who maybe feel very alone right now, what would you share with them if they are really kind of in the thick of that grief and really need support? Or what would you say to those that feel very alone? What would you share with them?
I'm a huge advocate for therapy. I mean,
Mm,
your friends are great, but sometimes friends and family are well-meaning and they don't provide what you actually need. They can actually
yes.
do more harm. I would say seek out a therapist and you have to try them on like shoes because not everyone is going to be conducive for what you need. You may not click with them and not
Hmm.
give up after the first try. That would be the first thing. And then second, to go outside and get some sunlight and to walk or even go on Meetup and find a particular group who's dealing with exactly what you're dealing with. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of healing in community because one, the very first thing it does is validate your experience. It might
Yeah.
not be the same, but it's like I guarantee you there is nothing that you're going through that someone else hasn't gone through or isn't currently going through as well. So in that
Mhm.
sense, in that respect, you're not alone. It just feels that way, especially if you're in the house. When you're in the house and you're isolated, it just kind of helps to magnify the feeling of being alone.
Yeah.
But often, if I just take a short walk, everything feels a little bit better, especially during the day and the sunlight hours. It
Yeah.
certainly helps.
Yeah, I'm an advocate for doing just that. Get outside, and I'm one to take off your shoes and put your feet in the dirt, in
Oh,
the
the
grass.
grounding. Yes.
Grounding is so important.
I haven't done it. I've read about it, but I have yet to do that myself.
Good stuff. That is some good
Okay, I'll
stuff.
try it and let you know.
Very good stuff. So share with the audience before we conclude anything that you would like to share, ways to get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more about
Sure.
you. You said you're an author, you're a poet. What all do you have out there for the listeners
Oh
that
gosh.
should check that they should check out? Okay, maybe just the website. I don't know if there's that.
So I'm revamping the website to include all the poetry stuff because of
Okay.
the different in creative names, so to speak. So on social media, did a play on the word imagery. So it's Emma, like the girl's first name, Emma, last name Dree, like imagery. And I'm on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook under that name. So you can find me there. Before all of this, before my husband passed, I had written several children's books.
Oh.
So if you go under Amazon, you can find the children's books and the poetry collection, even though they're under two different names, under Pageway Publishing. If you put Pageway, like Pageway as one word, in the search bar for Amazon, it brings up all of my work. So that's one way to find it.
I'll have to check all of that out. And of course, all of those links will be in our show notes for those that didn't catch all that and would like to check out all of those things that you have. So this has been a great conversation. Just some
Thank you for
powerful.
inviting me.
Yeah, you are so welcome. And sometimes I love that you talk about these creating spaces for people. And I
Mhm.
love that idea. I want to make sure if people are local that they find that and can
Mhm.
go there. So anyway, as this episode resonates with you as the listeners, I encourage you to reflect on this question. Who is part of my self-care network? And where might I be trying to do this alone?
Mm,
You don't have to be a poet to heal
no,
through creativity, and you don't have to have the right word. You just have to begin gently with yourself. So, thank you for being a part of this community that are helping those that are healing and allowing these stories to unfold with all of us. And until
thank you
next
so
time,
much.
you're welcome. Remember, your voice matters, your grief is valid, and you are not alone.